is actually a celebration of two nations. In 1776, the United States of America celebrated it for its independence, while in the Philippines, it is the Philippine-American Friendship Day, which started in 1946, when the United States of America recognized the sovereignty of the Philippines. Tonight, in Dynamic Living the Total You, we'd like to invite you, dear viewers, in the next 60 minutes as we try to discuss here the different bilateral relations that the U.S. and the Philippines has. I'd like to welcome to the show, on my right, a very beautiful young professor of law and director, Golden Gate University, San Francisco, United States of America, Attorney Helen Kang. Good evening po.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and of course, we'd like to welcome the presiding judge, 3rd MCTC Impasugong, Sumilao, Bukidnon, Judge Jerly Requerme. Good evening, Judge.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, and to start off, we'd like to welcome you to the Philippines, Professor Kang. I am very sure, is this the first time you've been here?
This is my very first time, and I feel extremely welcomed.
Yes, and you know, Dynamic Living is very fortunate to be the first person or the first TV program that invited you live, and we are live throughout the Philippines now, and YouTube also, so everybody all over the world can see us now, so they can actually send in their comments via SMS or FB, whatever they have there. Now, Judge Jerly, you are actually a participant of the International Visitor Leadership Program, which was done in the United States of America. How come you were able to avail of this program?
IVLP, as what this is called, is a premier exchange program between the Philippines and the United States. Accordingly, candidates or delegates are chosen by the embassy through nomination from embassy staff, and maybe because I was involved with some of the activities that the embassy had here in Mindanao, specifically here also in Cagayan de Oro. They nominated me, and I was chosen to be part of the delegation.
How long did the program take? I mean, yeah,
it ran
how long
for
were there?
3 weeks, and we went to around 7 states in the U.S. The topic of that particular, the theme for that particular exchange program was about human rights. So we went to agencies, we went to the courts, we went even to the Indian reservation. So it was a very fulfilling and a very excellent learning opportunity for me.
Were you the only person that was sent there for that particular time? Or was it a group of lawyers that were sent there?
It was a group during my time, but not entirely legal luminaries, or shall we say from the legal profession. We had 2 military men, a man and a woman. We had a journalist. We had a director of the human rights. We had a social worker. And
then you were from the legal side of it also. So how did the program enrich you as a person?
When I went there, went to the institutions as well as to the NGOs dealing with human rights, not just about abuses, but the help that they've been doing. I was so amazed that these people and these organizations could give everything to help others. So it has enriched me in a way that I would, you know, sometimes kept awake at night to think of ways how to give back and to help also.
And to think that you're very young at that, and I know that you are also the outstanding alumna of Mindanao State University. Yeah, I'd like to mention that, and so we are very much honored to have you here with us. No? So, how did you meet the both of you?
Through
Professor.
the International Senior Lawyers Project and the U.S. Embassy, which are involved in my project, which is to give assistance to the legal aid projects at both Palawan State University School of Law and here at Liceo de Cagayan.
So when Judge Jerly was in the U.S. for that exchange program, were you there also? Was that the beginning, or it came in later after you went through the program?
Actually, Professor Kang and I just met today. I met her at the airport. She settled in at her accommodation, and we went straight here. But this joint program of the International Seniors Lawyers Project of the United States and the U.S. Embassy of Manila has been benefiting us since last year. They have been sending lawyers to help us in our legal aid clinic. I'm professor of law at Liceo de Cagayan University, and our legal aid clinic is still relatively new. So the help that we're getting, experts, international experts at that, we really appreciate the effort, and we wanted the people to know that we're grateful to the U.S. government also for supporting
yes,
us.
which brings me again, I'd like to say this, that Professor Kang, you are the Professor of Law and Director, Golden Gate University. You have a legal aid clinic there, is that right?
Yes,
And you are very much actively involved in not just giving legal advices, but you are also, if I'm not mistaken, you are also into environmental law. So, yeah.
Yes, in fact, our clinic is called the Environmental Law and Justice Clinic, and I direct the clinic. I'm the director of the clinic, not of the university. I'm a director of the clinic. And our clinic is run by not only lawyers who are staff and faculty professors at Golden Gate University School of Law, but students. So students are actually participating actively in the practice of law under the student practice rules. And they do everything from interviewing clients, advising clients, drafting documents, representing clients in court, and representing clients in administrative proceedings.
How long have you been in this, being actively involved in this legal aid clinic, Professor?
Since 2000.
So that's almost 15 years.
Yes.
And counting. What gives you so much joy, in doing what you're doing now? Like, for example, before the show, I interviewed you and you said something like, from here, you're going to, you went to Greece, you're going to Switzerland, you're going all around, worldwide, bringing whatever you can as a legal aid advisor or maybe a resource person for environment. What makes you do what you're doing now?
So what motivates me is this model of what we call in the United States clinical education or experiential learning, where students really learn how to practice to be ethical lawyers, and in the process get exposed to true conditions in which people live, work, and play, and where they live. And so students are able to see how some people live under really deteriorated environmental conditions, and they are motivated to do something to improve those conditions. And they become exposed to the real conditions that people live in.
So it's not something like you read them in the books and you don't feel about it, you don't feel for it because it's just purely in the books. But this one, you try to expose them and give them, first-hand experiences on what's going on.
Exactly, and they really become engaged in not just assisting the clients, but they really get to understand how the law works and what justice really means. And so I really like clinical education in the way it not only trains law students, but the way it exposes students to real conditions that they really should know about as a member of a very privileged profession, because that's what our profession is. The legal profession is a very privileged profession, and we shouldn't live in the ivory tower. We should really work to improve the conditions of everyday lives of people. That's what my students do, and I want other countries to be engaged in that. And so I've gone to Egypt to start or help Egypt start some environmental clinics. That effort, I think, really didn't take off because of the conditions, the political conditions that Egypt went through after the revolution. I've been to Korea to talk to undergrad institutions about integrating experiential learning into undergrad law programs.
What about you, Judge? Professor Kang is more of, I think it's more of in the environmental issues. That's her expertise. Here in the Philippines, like, do you think that this one also has a place in our present situation now?
Yes, precisely.
What I mean, is it very relevant now?
Yes, it is very relevant as we've experienced here. We had Sindong during
Yes.
2011. Our families were victims of that. We went up to the ceiling, and after that, we no longer buy hardwood, you know. That's our way of helping the environment. Another thing was that we have the drastic climate changes. Now, the seasons would no longer follow its natural course. So sometimes, even if it's summer, it already rains. And, you know, it gives us fear that what could be the generation, what could be the future our children will have. So we believe environmental concern and environmental awareness should be the paramount concern of our country today.
What about our laws? Do you think that the laws that we have in our land right now has enough already for us to be able to protect our environment? Or is there something more that can be done for it?
As to laws, we have so many laws. We have the Clean Air Act, we have the Solid Waste Management Act, we have the Mining Act, and all the acts imaginable there. But most often than not, we lack the teeth of the law, the implementation. So I believe awareness to the people, and we're grateful for the opportunity for us to inform the viewers out there the importance of these laws and the importance of adhering to these laws.
Yeah, because if you notice, Professor Kang, there's a difference between having all these laws and having them implemented and people becoming actively involved.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Yeah, I believe also that everybody should have a hand in this. In other words, it's not just the problem of the policymakers or the implementers like Judge here or you as a professor teaching the people about it. But we as members of the society should go hand in hand with you.
Absolutely, and I think Judge Durley is absolutely correct about implementation because the Philippines actually has incredible laws. In fact,
you go through did you read the laws that we have?
I actually had a dialogue with another environmental professor in the Philippines, and we compared some of our laws, and we actually have, I think the Philippines has better laws in some respects than we do. For example, we don't have the Oposa versus Factoran principle, which establishes that future generations have a right to assert, to protect their interests as to the environment. And they're incredible laws, but the enforcement, monitoring, reporting, and the resources that are needed to make sure that these laws are being implemented, enforced, and complied with. Those are missing in some respects in the Philippines, from what I gather.
Which actually, Judge, you being actively involved here, I'm very sure that there are a group of you who would want to see that the monitoring, the implementation should be put in place.
Precisely, Doc. Actually, we hope, because environment is not just a concern of the agencies. It is all our concern, especially us who are not, who are not even connected with these government agencies. But we are the ones suffering. We are the ones suffering, especially that the Philippines is a third world country. We are an island. We have much to lose. So as early as now, before it's too late, I hope we can do something.
Before our children grows up with nothing at all.
Nothing. No trees.
Yes, it's something like this generation should be able to preserve something for the future generation. But hand in hand with all of these changes in the air, in the land, in the sea, in the water, everything, actually medical also, feels the impact already of this climate change. Like, for example, I was telling you a while ago about dengue fever.
Yes.
How these species have evolved and are becoming more virulent than they used to be. So these are actually part of this. So in your travels, Professor Kang, would you say that here, like here in the Philippines, which is a third world country, which Judge Jurley here mentioned already, do you think that there is always hope for a better way by which we can protect our environment?
I think that there are some things actually the United States can learn from the Philippines, which is that in Palawan, for example, which I just returned or came from, there are no-touch zones for commercial logging, for example, and those are very important laws to enforce. And just recognizing that certain areas are so sacred or so important to our future generation that they deserve protection forever. Those laws are incredibly important. But as I said before, enforcement is critical because what good is a no-touch zone unless somebody actually enforces it? What I've seen a lot of it, actually, what I noticed about my visits to developing countries is that transportation is a big issue, and emissions from cars, motorcycles, scooters, and here tricycles are a huge problem polluting the air. And the infrastructure has to be there so that people don't have to drive those emission heavy vehicles. And so I think that is there a hope for developing countries? Hopefully the developed countries who have contributed so much to climate change can contribute money so that developing countries can properly invest in infrastructure such as public transportation so that we don't have to have fossil fuel burning.
Yes, because if you notice, if only people would learn to walk, people would learn to use the bicycles with bicycle lanes, I think it would help. The judge, what do you think of this?
We believe that should be the direction that we should be going. We have here in Cagayan de Oro, the traffic is already, you know, getting worse every day. We have so much volume of cars, and yet our roads and streets are not ready for this. So I believe something, as what Professor Kang had said, public transport system would be a welcome change. But I would like to backtrack a little. The program that Attorney Helen Kang is here for is precisely for environment. But we at the Liceo Legal Aid Center, it's just one of the components. We would like to inculcate upon the students that lawyering is not just about money, it's just about earning. It's about service. We call it a noble profession. We should all be nobles, and we should really give back to the society that has loved us.
And actually, not just a noble profession, but it's something that you just don't worry about yourself. You have to worry about everybody around you and the future generation, because that's what living is all about and should be about. So how are the both countries now, the Philippines through Judge Jorly and Professor Kang for the United States of America, how can we do it in such a manner by which it becomes a mutually satisfying relationship between the both countries?
I feel so, the weight on me of representing the entire United States, but speaking only for myself,
yes.
I think that there are quite a few programs where we are exchanging information, like this program where I'm not the one solely imparting information to the Philippines. I think I am taking back a lot about the Philippines back to my country and to my students. And this kind of exchange, I think, is very important to share ideas and to learn from each other. And sometimes we need that outsider's view to pay attention to certain issues, or I need the stimulus of a different viewpoint to figure out what can be bettered in my country. And one of the things that I think that we really need to pay attention to is the amount of resources that we in the United States use.
Yes, well, actually, if you look at it, the United States has more resources than us.
And we use more.
Yes, and use more.
We're a consumptive society.
What about us in the Philippines, Judge? Why do we need so much legal aid from the United States of America? Is it something like, are we lacking? Like, for example, maybe a viewer now would start thinking, isn't it enough that we have already our lawyers, everybody here trying to IBT and everybody trying to help each other? Is it not enough? Do we really need to tap the services or the help of our friendly brother, older brother, which is the US of A?
Yes, Doc Jean. Actually, if we are left on our own, because always the issue here is about finances. We couldn't usually finance the projects that we want, and the government of the United States has programs that would support the proposals for environment, for example, for human rights, for legal aid clinics, and we were grateful for the engagement. And if we say we have a lot of legal minds here that can help, but we're grateful for the help of the United States, especially in terms of finances and the expertise that they're bringing in. They have different experience back in the United States, and the experience that they have there, especially in human rights also and in the field of environment, they could help us here in the Philippines.
When you say legal aid, it's more of a meeting of the minds? Is it more of, trying to help us out in the deliberation of whatever laws we already have? Or is it something else?
When we say of legal aid, it is giving aid in the legal aspect. So in Attorney Kang's place, they have legal clinic there solely for environment. Here at Liceo Legal Aid Center, environment is just one aspect. Human rights, women and children are the issues that we carry too. So we are not experts on environment, no? Unlike Professor Kang, who has dedicated her career path to that field. So when we say legal aid, we dispense legal help to the needy, especially to the indigent, especially those who cannot afford. Because for those who can afford, they can hire
their own lawyers.
Their own lawyers, their own lawyers. So we also use the legal aid clinic to further education, to further disseminate information on the issues that we bring.
And
so,
actually, it's one way of being able to give the right information. Because sometimes people would just Google, they just go through the net, they'll surf, and sometimes they get the wrong ideas, they get the wrong interpretation, and it's better for us to be able to seek people who are really the experts of this. Now, going back to Professor Kang, why environment specifically? What is in the environment that made you, dedicate your life into that?
I actually came into the field as a civil rights lawyer, or a lawyer interested in civil rights. And I entered into it to do pro bono service. And I happened to get a job at the United States Department of Justice doing environmental enforcement. And that's how I entered the field. I am so fortunate because it is actually one of the most important human rights issues now is climate change. And so I think that I am very lucky to have entered into the field when, are you okay? When the environmental issues that are so critical now are the ones that we can pay attention to at the clinic.
What about you, Judge? Would you say that your interest would lie also in environment?
Yes, partly environment, but because as I said, I'm not an expert on environment, though I've been a trial attorney of the DNR before. My interest actually is just, training students to give back and to help. So environment, human rights, all about justice, all about training these people to be persons that would, think about others, about service.
Okay. We'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll continue on discussing what are the different programs that the United States of America has given to the Philippines, and also what can we do in return for the services and for the help that you are giving to us. Please stay tuned.
Sir, what do you think of the U.S. and the Philippine relations nowadays?
US and the Philippines has a good relationships and since memorial, and then we have a good binding, and especially our business relationship between the Philippines and the American government.
So far, what I think about U.S. and Philippine relationship is one of the closest and undeniably strong allies in the world. It can be considered as a special relationship between two countries, between a mother country, which is United States of America, and then Philippines, which once became a colony of that superpower country.
I think it's necessary because the Philippines is trying still to develop itself, and then there are a lot of things that we could maybe learn from not just the U.S. but maybe other countries as well. But at the same time, we should have like a limit on our relationships because there are some things we should be able to do for ourselves.
Do you know any programs from the U.S. to our country?
What I know, one of the programs I think is the military assistance, like the U.S. Navy and the Philippine Navy. We have that, what do you call that? I do not know the exact program, but they are helping each other to promote the military, to equip our military.
Only the joint military exercise they seem to be doing now and then. Yeah.
Yes, I do. As an educator, I have heard about last year that Department of Education released this memorandum about AFS IPP, or the American Field Studies International Program Philippines. It is an educational organization that enrich learnings and at the same time deepening the intercultural awareness between Philippines to other countries. It aids the students, the teachers, and volunteers to study and live abroad or overseas. So in some way, it broadened the horizon of these individuals for their specialization. So it's very helpful.
Wala pa.
Welcome back to Dynamic Living. The Total You is our episode, A Tale of Two Nations, United States of America and the Philippines ties. I'd like to welcome to the show this time our Development Management Manager, Northern Mindanao Office of the Mindanao Development Authority, or MINDA, Ms. Lordelie Lourdes Enhambre. Good evening sa iyo, Ma'am Lourdes.
Good evening, Doc Jean, and thank you for having me here. My salutations to our televiewers also.
Yes.
Of Dynamic Living.
Yes.
Dynamic Living.
Yeah, dynamic talaga tayo
Oo,
lahat.
dynamic talaga. So this is actually my first time here, and really my heartfelt thanks to the management for inviting our office to be one of your guests
And
tonight.
so that the people would know and understand what MINDA stands for, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
let's start it off, Ma'am Lourdes, by, this was created with Republic Act number 9996, the MINDA, di po ba?
Yes.
So what is the purpose or the objective of this? How come that the government, thought that we need to have this kind of agency?
Yeah, because of the complicated situation of Mindanao, the administration thought it's wise to really have an office, a national agency that would take care or oversee the overall Mindanao development. So the agency, our agency, the Mindanao Development Agency, or MINDA, is actually tasked to coordinate the various Mindanao initiatives. And it is our duty to also ensure that all the 6 regions across the island region of Mindanao are all well represented. And so all their concerns we try to integrate integrate them all into one Mindanao agenda.
Yeah. Who are the members of this group that you have? I mean, it is all the representatives from the 6 regions, and what other government agencies are involved here?
Our office is actually headed by our chairperson, that's Secretary Luwalhati Antonino, and all of the chairpersons of the respective regional development councils. So as we know, the Regional Development Council is also the highest policy-making body of each region. So all the chairpersons are all sitting there as part of our MINDA board.
How many years have you been with MINDA, Ma'am Lourdes?
Actually, I'm new to the office. I just started to 2013, but the office actually is already existing for 20 years now. No, the precursors of MINDA were the Office of the President in Mindanao, so that's OPAMIN, and then the Mindanao Economic Development Council. So it has been here
For
in
a long time
Mindanao
already.
for a long time, for 20 years and counting.
Yeah, and one of the members, or not member, but actively involved with MINDA project is the USAID, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because our topic tonight is actually about the friendship that we have with our big brother, the United States of America. Because of July 4, we just celebrated our Philippine-American Friendship Day. And if you were listening to the first half of the show, we had our Professor Kang from the U.S. for the legal aid, and Judge Jurley. So now let's talk about here Mindanao as a recipient of the different various programs of the United States. And the USAID is one of that. So what are the different projects or programs that you have hand in hand with USAID?
Yeah, I'd like to start with growth with equity in Mindanao. No? Though I said that I started working with the office in 2013, but actually this is my comeback already. So I've been with the agency way back in 1996 when it was first called as the Office of the President in Mindanao during the presidency of President Fidel Ramos. So at that time, we were working closely with the Growth with Equity in Mindanao program. That's the Growth with the GEM 1 program that's funded by USAID. So the focus there is, of course, to really share the benefits of the economic developments for programs and projects already implemented in Mindanao. So that's the GEM program. And then there was GEM Growth with Equity in Mindanao too, and then the last one in 2013, I think. So GEM is actually the longest running USAID program in Mindanao. So the GEM 3 was more focusing its intervention for the conflict-affected areas in Mindanao, so the armed areas.
Yeah, when you say, Ma'am Lourdes, something like it's more of growth equity, it's more of economic, and it's more now, for example, it's the war-torn areas. In concrete terms that our viewers would understand, what are these programs?
Yeah, they were...
Are these livelihood programs?
Part of that is livelihood, and then they went into infrastructure development, so roads, bridges.
What about schools?
Schools as well. Schools as well, and training centers under the GEM program. So that was GEM. And then now we have the Cities Development Initiative. So it started in 2011. In fact, our city, the Cagayan de Oro City, is actually one of the beneficiaries of the Cities Development Initiative, or CDI project of USAID. Under the CDI project initiative, it actually envisioned these target cities to be the engines of growth. And for me, I think the CDI program also is an instrument that really made Cagayan de Oro City as the most competitive city in the Philippines.
So that is through the USAID
Yes,
help.
yes. Because Cagayan de Oro was part of the pilot project beneficiaries. There were only 3 cities, Batangas, Iloilo, and our city, Cagayan de Oro. And then now, I think they're expanding to include other cities as well, like Zamboanga, Yeah, so it's expanding.
So when you say that we are a beneficiary of this and the growth, we have actually an exponential growth now in Cagayan de Oro.
Yes.
As you mentioned, we are actually the most competitive city now. So it was in the form, the pouring in of the help of the USAID is actually in the form of helping build the roads that we have, maybe helping with the trainings and the setting up of other activity centers.
Not the roads for CDI, but basically CDI was more on technical assistance and ensuring that the key cities will really be efficient in the business permitting and the licensing. So it's really the focus there is streamlining the business processes. That's one project that they are really heavily looking at under CDI, and then of course the governance aspect. So it's actually training and capacitating the local government units to be in
So would you say
effectively managing the resources of
so
the
would you
city.
say, Ma'am Lourdes, that the programs that the USAID is hand in hand with MINDA, is it progressing as it should be? Or would you say that there are certain, stop gaps? Like, for example, sometimes in any programs, there can be, a delay in it? Or is it just moving forward as expected or as targeted?
Actually, I would say that all the USAID funded programs in Mindanao are dynamic programs, no? Because when they start this program and end it, the next program that they will implement would take into account all the recommendations of the local stakeholders. So that's why from GEM, so the focus is different, and then under the CDI program, the focus is again different, basing on what's felt and needed by the community. And then now at present, we just actually launched our low emission development strategies, or the LEDS project, and this one is in partnership with the Bee Leaders. That's also funded by USAID.
What is this program?
This one now is, of course, because of climate change and global warming. So we have now these low emission development strategies. And here we would like to promote investments that would actually use cleaner and greener technologies. No? So this is the buzzword now. And of course, after what happened to us during Typhoon Sendong, so I think this is a common sentiment already among us here in Mindanao, that we are saying no more Sendong to happen again in our island region. And so, as you can see and as you can observe also, most of our projects now in Mindanao would actually greatly consider the environment protection and preservation aspect.
Which actually, that was what Professor Kang and Judge Jurley were saying a while ago, that it's more of environmental issues now. So USAID and MINDA are the same and one in the commitment also to make sure that the environment that we live in and the environment that we live to our future generations is well maintained and kept.
Yes, very well.
So how does MINDA and USAID empower the locals in order for the locals, like for example the Cagayanons or whoever, whatever place you go into, to be able to really, implement, monitor, and be able to actively participate in the programs?
For the LEDS project, actually the city of Cagayan de Oro is not part of that. Why? Because CDO is already a fast progressing city, and we would like to focus our attention now to the least developed cities in Mindanao. So we would want to capacitate them and to really help them come up with a highly thought and an enhanced their comprehensive land use program, their urban plans, their city development plans. So we would like to be more of assistance to them now, to the least developed cities in Mindanao. So because we think the developed cities are already capacitated to, come up with all of these plans.
In other words, parang you are now going into those who are less fortunate than the ones that you used, in a way. So how do the locals, perceive about this foreign aid that we are receiving? I mean, is there no resistance to it? Are they excited? Are they, you know, very much actively participatory in all of these programs?
Well, we are on our 5 months of implementation, so but we can feel that all the, you know, the project beneficiaries are excited to be with the program and to implement things that are needed and expected of them, you know, especially they're coming up with their comprehensive land use plan, their city development plans, and their urban plans,
And maybe it's
all
more,
the other development
it's more
plans.
it's more of seeing the other beneficiaries of this, you know, grow.
Yes,
And
yes.
so they would want also na kami din. We would like to be
Yes.
part of this. We'd like to be, you know, recipients of this help that they are receiving
Yes.
also.
And then side by side with this is that we're now trying to educate people about the value of supporting the PES. No? So PES is what we call as payment for ecosystem services. And here we're saying that we would really like to improve the condition of our upstream areas, and so that here we are in the downstream areas, we can no longer be experiencing flooding and other disasters later on, because our forest lands are already healthy up there. So this is PES, and when we say payment for ecosystem services, we're saying that everybody should contribute to this fund so that our indigenous peoples will also be motivated to protect the forest, and they will also be encouraged not to cut the trees anymore.
Maybe giving them livelihoods and the right
Yes.
education will help them cooperate with us.
Yes, because part of the PES scheme is to develop agroforestry areas. So when you say agroforestry, so we encourage them to plant fruit-bearing trees like cacao, coffee, and others, no? And so that in a span of 2 years' time, they will already start earning income.
And they
out
don't
of
have to
trees
cut the
planted.
trees
Yes.
in order for them to earn money.
Yes.
We'll take a very short break, and when we return, we will continue on with our discussion, A Tale of Two Nations, actually the partnership between the US of A and the Philippines. Please don't go away.
But so far, do you think right now the US is trying to help the Philippines? So do you think this would last?
Hopefully, yes, mulast siya ang friendship between sa Philippines and USA, pero no one can tell if until when gid siya.
How far? I think in timetable it will actually not be really measured. But as long as in international policy, as long as international policy has this moral and personal interest, as long as it exists in international policies, I think the relationship between United States and Philippines will be as strong as before.
I think it depends the leaders of each country. It also depends the people of the Philippines and US.
I guess so. Because ever since naman ang assistance sa US, until now, it continues yearly. They pour it funding. They give funding to the Philippine government, especially those in need.
Well, we have a history of being very friendly with the US, and on the other hand, it would be a very bad thing for us to make enemies of them.
Do you think we need assistance from USA?
Definitely yes, pero yeah, kailangan siguro sa Philippines ang assistance para mas ma-improve ang economics sa Philippines.
It will last. I don't have any pero I think it will last forever, I think.
As long as personal interest exists in international policy, each countries need other countries. So Philippines need the United States as well as the United States needs the Philippines.
Of course, because we all know that US is one of the richest country of the world, and they know in terms of technology, they are the #1 countries very kanang sitag ani bang progressive country all over the world. So I think we need assistance to the US country.
Like I said, we could stand to learn something from any country, not just the US. But then again, we should also foster some independence on our own, be autonomous, and maybe just follow lead, not exactly take after them.
Welcome back to Dynamic Living the Total You with our episode, A Tale of Two Nations, the US of A and the Philippines. I'd like to welcome back to the show Professor Kang, Judge Jurley, and of course from Minda, we have Ma'am Lourdes. Now, you heard the interviews of our people there, you know, in the streets, and they believe that there is a very good relationship between the US and the Philippines. Now, I'd like to ask you, Judge, first. Having been to the US of A, gaining experience and knowledge from them, and being taught, you know, a lot of things on how to further improve maybe your learning experience and how to handle issues that we have here, would you say that you really benefited from it? And what was in you that if you were given a chance, how would you like to pay it back also?
My US experience was truly amazing. We went to courts, we were able to interview some justices, we were able to interact with some pillars of justice, prosecutors, as well as lawyers there. And they have a fast-paced judicial system, so that's an envy that we would like our present judicial system to have. They don't really have that very high, or shall we say here, clogged dockets, court dockets. They have teleconferencing. The judge sits in the court while the accused, I think it was in North Dakota, that we were able to see that particular amazing court scene wherein the accused were just in the jail and the judge talks to him through CCTV. And it right there and then decisions can be had or plea bargaining can be had depending on the type or misdemeanor or type of offenses that they have. So I learned a lot. From the experience, and we hope to bring some of that here. I already made a report to the Supreme Court about my experience and some of the suggestions. But again, we know that we have a very long way to go. Right now, Cagayan de Oro is also facing a lot of challenges since the Hall of Justice burned down.
Yes.
So I think that's the more urgent, what is this project that they have to complete. As a way of giving back, it has pushed me, it has encouraged me to work harder because I don't see that's impossible to attain. As what the interviewee had said, we need all the help. No man is an island. We need all the help that we can get. But at least learn from what's best, from the best practices of that particular country, but retain our identity as Filipinos.
And would you say that from that exchange program, can you see that the hands of the big brother that we have, the US of A, is really very, very visible? In other words, you can really feel and see that they are out to help us.
I believe in my heart, yes, that they're here to help us. Proof of that is Professor Kang is here, coming over all the way from San Francisco, California. No, she doesn't know anyone here prior to this engagement.
And remember, Judge, you know, Professor Kang, Ma'am Lourdes, remember that Mindanao is so-called the war-torn place, and everybody's saying, you shouldn't go to that place. And yet here you are, you're a living proof of how you would want to help us Filipinos by coming over to our place.
It's on the red in the embassy.
Yes.
Mindanao is on the red.
Yes, on the red, right? Yes. And despite that red, they're alert and everything, you know, you still took it upon yourself to come all the way to be with us.
I'm very privileged to be here. I feel very welcomed, and I don't feel fearful.
Yeah, that's the one that we would want, our viewers to know. And when you go back to your place, we'd like you to bring good tidings that we are actually a very peace-loving country, peace-loving people here. And yes, what about you, Ma'am Lourdes? The USAID has been, giving so much also in the endeavors for Minda, okay, for the development of Mindanao. What can you say about, just like Judge here, she feels that we are never neglected and we are actually very much a recipient of their generosity in helping us out.
I think what is crucial in every program or project implementation is really sustaining the undertaking, the effort. And so in Minda, we see to it that all the projects, not just with USAID, but with all the partners and even our projects, our own projects in Minda, we see to it that everything is sustainable. So that is one. And of course, we heavily promote the successes of every programs and projects. So of course, Pray CdeO is a very good venue. So the Dynamic Living Hope Channel is a very good venue to promote it. And also, we include it in all our presentation materials, especially when we go around Mindanao. So these are success stories that are really worth telling. So we always highlight it in all our presentations.
Which is actually what it should be. We should always be positive about everything that goes on, even with your legal aid clinic, even with your environmental concerns, advocacies. Everything should be not just, the bad things about it, but what can be attained out of it. Now, Professor Kang, you see the Philippines, what is it, or how shall I say, what can we do also in order to repay what you have been doing for us? Because it's a bilateral thing. In other words, it has to be synergistic. It's not just we be the recipients of all the help that you can give us. Let's just focus on environment. Let's just focus on the legal aid because that's your expertise. And that's what you bring to us. So in return, what do you think or what do you expect us here should be also giving back to you?
I think the synergy is already happening. We have lawyers in the United States who are in touch with organizations like the Environmental Legal Assistance Center in Palawan, and I think they're also in Cebu and other places. And we're in touch with those lawyers, and we not only impart information, but we actually take information back from those kinds of organizations and other wonderful law professors and environmentalists that are in the Philippines.
And
so it's not one way.
Yeah, and now that you are also going to help out in the legal aid clinic, and that's one way also of, getting back and giving also.
Yes, and one of the questions that you had was why are we receiving, or why is the Philippines receiving aid from the United States on legal aid? And part of it is actually the resource issue, which is I'm a full-time professor paid by the law school. And here in the Philippines, there are very few full-time law professors.
Yes.
And so it is, as I keep saying, the word I keep using is privilege. I feel privileged to be a full-time professor. And I can use my summertime when we're actually on vacation, or our students are off in the summer. And this is our summer.
Yeah.
I know that here in
it's school time.
Philippines, the schools are in session right now, but our school's out. And so I can afford to spend that time here in the Philippines to interact with the students at Palawan and also at Liceo de Cagayan.
But Professor Kang, not everybody would have that kind of mindset. You know what I mean, Judge? She's free to do it because she's a full-time professor. But even if you're a full-time professor and you're free to do it, you can opt not to do it. So we'd like to commend you and thank you for that. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes. Now, for Judge and for Lourdes, having been, it's not all rosy along the way, knowing that, okay, Minda is a recipient of USAID, Judge here went to the U.S. to, attain more experience and more knowledge. Not everybody would say, hey, that's a good thing to happen, because there are challenges along the way. And what are these challenges that you are faced with?
Well, of course, it takes time for project beneficiaries to really appreciate the project goals. So normally the project gestation would just be a year or two. And so if you will already be spending 6 months for information and education campaign, that's so much time that you're spending just for information and appreciation alone. So that one is a challenge, but nevertheless, we are not also very much concerned about it because we always think of the positive, no? That when we just do our, when we just religiously do the information dissemination and conduct dialogues with project partners, so in the long run, they will really understand and will commit to the project. So that is our thinking in Minda.
Yes. What
Yeah.
about you, Judge? What are the challenges that you are faced with? Like, for example, environment issues, like, for example, helping more students to understand how it is to become, in the profession of the legal community. So what are the challenges that you are faced with?
First and foremost, the challenge that I had now is because of my position. When I was promoted, there is some restrictions. Being a judge is also difficult because you just cannot engage, actively because you might. It might affect, you will sometimes incur conflict of interest. So we're also careful to draw the line and the boundaries. So I could not do as much as I wanted to go to the communities and to do all the works that I have. So
That's a limitation,
yes, that's a
actually.
limitation. So I just have to be in the shadows and advise the students and be just a consultant. Otherwise, I would be jeopardizing my job. It's good
Yes.
that I'm assigned in a different jurisdiction and not here in
Not
Cagayan
here,
de Oro.
yes.
So conflict of interest is not really that apparent. But still, since our code of ethics is strict on these matters, as a public servant, as a government employee, I have to observe them. Another one is, of course, you've said about the resistance of others. They would
Yes.
think, oh, they're helping us because they need something from us and things
Yes.
like that. But as you've said, we have to be positive. We have to be positive that these people are helping us because they genuinely care.
So what do you see, the three of you now? What do you see in the future for yourselves? What would be the legacy that you would want to leave behind? Like, say, for example, 5 or 10 years from today, how would you want to be remembered? Let's start with Professor.
Boy, that's a really, it's almost like a eulogy. I don't think I'm ready for a eulogy, but I do want to say something about the Philippines, which is that it's a beautiful country, and I hope that the Filipinos appreciate the beauty of the country and protect it.
What about you, Judge? How would you want, your legacy? In other words, it's not an eulogy. It's something like, okay, 5, 10 years from today, I would want to go down into the annals of history having done this.
Actually, just for myself,
Yeah, for
I
yourself.
want to be an inspiration to the law students that even if you become lawyers, especially so when you become lawyers and you become professionals, there is more responsibility, individual responsibility for you to give back.
It's
So-
not something that you're limited by your practice alone.
Yes,
but
and
you
sometimes
should be committed to something.
Thinking about money, thinking about fame, thinking about what you can get, but thinking more of how you can give.
Yes. What about you, Lords?
I think office-wide, I think all of us in Minda would want to be remembered as the implementer of sustainable projects. So personally, I would want to be remembered as a dynamic partner. No, not just with the regional line agencies that we're working with, but especially with the private sector and the local government units, especially here in Northern Mindanao, because I'm particularly assigned here in the region. So that's for me, and of course, to be a good mom to my son. That's my personal.
Yes. So I'd like to thank all of you for gracing Dynamic Living the Total You. My 1 hour is already up. I've been receiving the signals already. I'd like to thank you. What would be your message to our viewers, Professor Kang?
Thank you for having me. It's been a great experience being in the Philippines. Thank you.
Okay, what about you, Judge? Your message?
Let's be inspired, let's continue to work, and let's continue to serve.
All right, what about you, Lords?
Again, I'd like to thank the team of Dynamic Living for having Minda here and me here in your program today. And also, I would like to really extend, on behalf of our chairperson, Secretary Luwalhati Antonino, would like to extend our thanks to the American government for their continued assistance, and of course to the American people for their contribution to the implementation of these programs here in the Philippines and especially here in Mindanao.
Yes.
Daghang salamat
Daghang
kaayo.
salamat. Maraming salamat. Thank you. That's our way of saying thank you in the vernacular. Yes, dear viewers, remember that it takes two to make a tango. We would like to thank our brothers, the Big Brother US of A, for helping us out. And we also as Filipinos have our own obligations to our country. So let us be dynamic, let us go, serve, and be counted. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat.